Alright, we're gonna test the new updates to my code. I'm switching over my chaos system into uh, a scheduler kind of system. It's very primitive right now, so it's not the final version. So let's see. We're gonna do a quick build and test run. Um, so it's not too exciting yet. I basically just switched everything I already had into a more coherent system that I can have more control over, and it allows certain functions to be aware of each other without being a big mess of looking through code. It's all manageable through one area. So, and it cuts down on the infinite loops and timing issues you may have with the chaos being randomized as it was and independently ran through infinite loops on um okay, it is picking it up good. I was about to say, why is it not picking up my game, but it looks like it is. All right, so let's see. Yeah, I also I had it. What? Oh well, why is it restored? That shouldn't have fired. Yeah, I'm gonna have to fix some things. But I am trying to switch over from an old system to something a little bit newer. Something that should work a lot better, but, theoretically. It looks like it's working, but yeah, see, weapons privileges have been restored, but it never took them in the first place, so yeah, there's already an issue with my code. I must have missed something when I copied my functions around and made the changes to it. I think I missed something somewhere. Yeah, because it just keeps saying restored. Alright. Yeah, that's not correct at all. That's not how that should work. It needs to suspend the weapon privileges first. So, let's see. Let's see what's going on in the weapons privileges system. Okay, so it's skipping this. Okay, yeah. So what I need to do is this is gonna be one I'm gonna have to work with and change. Mostly because it prints the thing. So let's just do this for now. We'll do else, and then we'll take this and cut it and place it in the else. That way, then it only fires the message. Um, well, wait a minute. You know what? Because else is going to do the same thing. Um, we'll just do else if, I guess. And then we'll just copy all this in there. And then let's see, we'll change this to greater than 10. Okay, and this is equal to false. Because right now it doesn't, it only looks at if the weapons privileges are suspended. So for testing, this should actually be fine. Although later on, This is gonna need to be changed. This is gonna actually have to. It's gonna be looking at multiple things. So I don't know. I may have to rewrite this whole suspension system. All right, let's test that out. Let's see what we got with that. That should fix the issue. Yeah, it's not the most ideal situation, but the problem is though now this ain't gonna fire, and you're gonna be stuck like that. Um, I think so. Uh, I'm gonna have to probably rework that code. It's not just an easy change it into the scheduler and change a couple things like most of the rest of the code was. Most of the other systems worked fine, but the way I had originally designed it kind of had more intentional purpose. I also don't have. I may not get my weapons privileges back. Um, so we'll see. It should only last for a minute, so we'll see if I get my privileges back. I think deadhead should actually be one word. That's another thing I need to change, but yeah. Let's just run around for a minute and see if I get my weapons privileges back. If not, then I need to fix some stuff for that to work. I really wasn't prepared to do a video on this, but I decided since, you know, I got a little time right now, I might as well just record some footage of it. Show off where I've gotten. Unfortunately, yeah, that's what I was going to get to before I got caught off with that weapons privileges system being a little broken. Um, yeah, I had some issues with the mod tool, so I had to restart. And because I had made prefabs, I didn't back those up. So the map that I was using before is completely gone. I still have a copy of it, but because I don't have the prefabs I created before, it's unusable. So, yeah. Um, yeah, the mod tools won't open it because it's looking for prefabs that don't exist. So, yeah, I think I'm pretty much stuck without weapons privileges because, yeah, it's been over a minute. Everything else appears to be working though. So yeah, the map's gonna have to be redesigned, but alright. Yeah, it looks like I'm not getting those weapons privileges back, so it looks like Sarge just kinda pissed at me. Alright, so let's see, what could I fix up here to make this work? Let's see. Oh shit, well I got one problem. I'm calling the wrong function for that. I'm surprised it actually compiled that. Whoops. Okay, so we're gonna copy that. So one of my functions actually didn't even have the correct function call. It's calling another. It's calling the function from when I copied this shit around, which is incorrect. Um, let's see. So where is suspend weapon privileges? Um, so it's never becoming false. So once it breaks out, it still has to become false. So I think how I'll handle that is I'll just do this at the bottom, right here at the end of the function. And then that'll always reset it back so it can re-roll again. Okay, that ought to fix it. Okay, I don't know. My brain's been a little hazy lately. I think I've been overlooking shit, simple shit. I think I need to get more sleep or something. I don't know, but we'll see here. I think this ought to fix the issue. Alright, let's see what happens this time. Do I get what I need or do I not get what I need? That is the question. I also need to change my scheduler to not fire until the black screen is passed, but that's a line of code I can just add in for my old functionality. Yeah, because some of the functionality is already active when you load into the map. Yep, weapons privileges have been suspended. The underpants gnome stole your weapon. Come on, get over to the invisible wall by. Alright, so yeah, my mechanics of fucking with the player are working. Um, and this ain't all I got in store. I got more in store, but I don't want to, once I get more stuff working, I don't want to showcase everything as it's done because it spoils the surprise. I want people to want to play this. I worked hard on this shit. I've been working hard on, scripting Call of Duty for a long time, and since Black Ops 3 is a lot easier to release maps for, I really want to actually have something that gets released. Because I did a lot of work for World at War for fucking many years, and, I never released anything, even though I got a lot of, code, and I made a couple tutorial videos that really didn't do that well. So, teaching people how to code this stuff for themselves. So instead, I think I'd rather just shift my focus to doing the code, and maybe if there's demand, I'll make tutorial videos on how to do map design and, code functionality if there's enough demand, but the demand seems pretty low for stuff like that. People don't seem to care about the technical side, or don't care about creating their own mods as much. I have had some demand for map making, but to be fair though, that's my least favorite part. I'm a coder. That's the part I enjoy the most is coding bullshit into the game. Making stuff happen. Changing the rules and shit. That's my thing. Yep. Weapons privileges have been suspended. Right now, I don't have any safeguards in place, so while you're under a weapons suspension, theoretically, the underpants gnomes could come and take your gun. But I will be fixing that as well. Right now, wasn't a primary concern. Shifting everything over to be functional and work through a scheduler system was my primary focus for today. And I got that stuff done. I definitely gotta change this because it does happen quite a bit. But I also haven't changed weighting for these functions. They all run between 0.7 seconds and 60 seconds. So, yeah, right now they're all weighted the same. They're all weighted to work within less than a minute, basically. Um, it's easier for testing, but later on for gameplay and, make the game more fun, I'll weight each function. That's why I moved it to a scheduler. It's easier to do that. You can weight the timing. You can, weigh it. Um, this one should be less time. This one should be more time. Delays should be longer. All that stuff. So, but now that I know it's working, I could shift my focus. You gotta watch this one right now because I'm using the bullshit starting test map and I really haven't made much in the way of changes to it yet. Just so I could test my code. Yeah. The physics, the fucking with the player's physics could actually throw you up outside of the zone a little bit and cause you to die instantly. So if your jump height ends up being something ridiculous, you can just end up dying. Okay, weapon privileges restored. I haven't seen the underpants gnomes yet, which is kind of good. I think they're weighed pretty well. It's kind of better than the way I had it before, because they used to come steal your weapon a lot more often. But I might change that in the future, because I think it's kind of funny, honestly. But, the map is kind of meant to be... The original idea behind it was asshole zombies, you know? Like, it's meant to not just be challenging, but like challenging in a funny, fucked up way. Like, it's meant to be played with your friends and enjoy. It's not really meant to be like super serious. You can play it super serious if you want, but you'll probably get frustrated because it's the name of the game is to fuck with you. The map's working name is called Psychological Warfare, by the way. Um, yeah, that's the original working title was Asshole Zombies. That was the original main idea. And that started in World at War. Then I shifted to Black Ops 3, and now Asshole Zombies is more or less like, the basis of psychological warfare. The game is meant to fuck with you. And the fuckery is just surface level right now. It's like fucking with your controls, your jump height, your physics, Um, your weapons privileges get suspended. Underpants gnomes steal your weapons, like you might not be able to look down sights sometimes and shit like that, you know. Right now it's just fucking with you. But the idea later is to expand that idea, and I got plenty of ideas and plenty of things that I plan to add to it. So, if anybody is actually interested in seeing this when it's finalized, playing it. Yeah, just keep tabs on the channel, and I'll post videos here and there about updates. Any major reveals will be hidden. Anything that like I feel is just like too good to show off. That I want to be like a kind of final reveal thing. That'll all be disabled before a video is made. That way, then I'm not showing off all my best work and spoiling the surprise, because that takes some of the fun out of playing it. You can see what's going on now, but this is very early stage development, so the mechanics I got in place are kind of minimal, but certain mechanics I don't want to show off immediately because um, I want there to be something to reveal when the map is released, and something to excite players and them to find out. Yeah, it'll be demonstrated, so you might see it before you play it, but that's another thing. Fake down, where pretend you get knocked down at random intervals, and it applies fake damage. The damage is not real. Right now, my ads are disabled. I also got to put in some checks for this, too. If you get the Apothicon gun, it is possible for the underpants gnomes to try and steal it. And if they steal it, it glitches out. So, and also it's possible for you to get weapons privileges suspended and that to happen. So there's a couple pieces of code, like, that's called weapons malfunction, what just happened there. And the weapons malfunction could switch your weapon, it could cause fake firing, it could cause a lot of different things. But yeah, what it does is it'll sometimes just randomly switch your weapon. You might end up not being able to switch weapons because your weapon cycling is disabled. So that's all possible. As you see, I just hit the outside of the zone with that jump. So, I haven't really weighed the physics perfectly so that don't happen, but when I actually build a map, this is just a bullshit test box. This is what Treyarch gives you. I haven't changed the zone size or anything. The zone size will be big enough to where you're not going to end up dying in that ridiculous way, because that would be unfair on top of all the unfair mechanics I already got. So, yeah. This will be better when it's done, This is just more of a kind of showcase of the bullshit I've got going right now. I do want to get more in the map. The only reason I'm playing this for so long, even, it's been like 20 minutes right now, is because I want to make sure mechanics are firing properly, get a feel for what needs tuned. Because now that everything is shifted over to this scheduler system, and everything is kind of able to keep track of each other and not just fire, 1,000 times a second and all that shit, Now that I got it in a scheduler system, I feel like, it's easier to tune everything, add more stuff later, all that fun stuff. So, yeah. Right now I got a cheater function in practice or in play. This just gives me points so I could buy a gun so I could run around and test shit, Basically to keep myself alive, and because underpants gnomes like to steal your shit, That's another one too that's called fumble. You'll randomly throw your weapons on the ground. Sometimes you won't be able to switch, sometimes you won't be able to aim down sights. You'll be in the middle of aiming down sights and it'll disable that functionality. So, yeah. So far it seems like that function hasn't come into play yet, but it will. I may need to do some tweaking to it. There may be something wrong with the weighing on it. I think my favorite one is the fumble, because I find it kind of amusing. When you're in the middle of combat and your gun just goes flying out your hands. I find that kind of amusing. But remember, it's not meant to be taken seriously. So if you take the game too seriously and you're more of a serious zombies player, or like you don't like kind of fun, whimsical maps, stuff like that, I would say stay away from this one when it's done, because it's meant to fuck with you and it will piss you off. So if you can't handle having fun with it, with these kind of systems, I wouldn't recommend playing it, because it's gonna piss you off and it's just not gonna be fun. Yeah, like right now I can't switch weapons. My aim down sights isn't working. I need to check why that is. I think my weapons privileges just got suspended. Either that or he threw his gun and it went through the floor. Which may have happened. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. It didn't say the underpants gnomes took it, so I don't think the underpants gnomes did it. But this is kind of fun too. I kind of like, I call that ice floor. Random ice floors. And later this may affect just certain areas and not the entire map, but right now it affects the individual players. And this does run individually on each player. So if you're playing with your friends, one person may have ice floors while the other doesn't. So but I haven't tested with multiplayer, so I'm not 100% sure if it should work with individual players the way it's coded. But again, sometimes things don't quite work the way you anticipate when you have multiple players in the mix. But yeah, as you can see, if you get in tight corridors with fake down, that could really fuck you up. I haven't seen the weapons privileges get suspended for a while. I wonder if they kind of broke, or if it's just it's rolling. Because it does work off a random number generator. So there's a chance it'll enter the function and then just not, roll a favorable number to actually do it. It's kind of based on a dice roll. So whenever it's called, it does some checks and then it calls it. And then once it enters the function, it rolls the dice and it basically says whether or not, the quote-unquote event is going to happen. Nope. Now my weapons privileges are suspended. So, okay, yeah, it is functioning fine. It's just been getting bad dice rolls. I don't know if that's bad. Honestly, for some players, they might see that as favorable. Especially considering how this could happen 0.7 seconds to 60 seconds. So, yeah. It is kind of... the other thing, though, is with some of these functions, well, most of them, that time not only determines the delay it determines a delay before the actual event happens, so it'll wait before it actually does the thing. So it's kind of like, I don't know, like I guess you could call it like stealthy. You know, it. I mean, it's not really stealthy because in the background you don't know what's going on, you know, until it happens. But um, it it kind of just like idles there, so you don't know that you're gonna get something to happen, and then after it does the thing, it uses the same wait time to determine how long the event will last. So, like, for instance, weapons privilege is suspended. If it rolls 60 seconds, then it's going to wait 60 seconds before it actually starts the suspension. And then it's going to wait a further 60 before the event is over. And with the way it works now, it just releases the function. So it could leave you, it could re roll long wait periods, and potentially bad rolls could leave you without a weapon for, you know, a pretty extended period of time. So again, I'm gonna have to do some tweaking to the functionality and do some, you know, roll weighting and time, weighing the time and the dice rolls to make it more favorable to where it doesn't leave you too long, because I do want it, you know, I want it to leave you without weapons for, you know, somewhat extended periods, but I want it to be within reason. So, you know, like, maybe I'll put like a timer in there, and after it passes a certain amount of time, then it'll say, hey, okay, well, it's been suspended long enough, so we'll pass in this value and force it to break you out. You know, that kind of thing. So I'll eventually tweak that more, because I do like this. Yeah, I do like the suspension functionality. It's kind of fun. I find it fun, at least. Some people might find it annoying, but that's part of the challenge. Especially when this actually becomes a map. Like right now, this is just the Treyarch bullshit testing hub, you know, that you start with when you create a new map. I didn't bother changing anything. I literally just deleted a couple things that I didn't want in a way. Like that spawn area where the zombies could come out of the fucking barriers and shit. And the walls that were behind, like, the perk machines and the power switch and all that. So literally I just got a very plain basic square map. Apparently I can't pick up the weapons still. I'm not sure what's going on there. There we go. I guess I wasn't close enough to it. There are some times though where you drop the weapon and the bug, and it kind of bugs out, and you'll go to pick it up and it just won't let you pick it up, so then you end up having to buy a new one. So I am going to try and work on a fix for when that happens as well. But yeah. Alright. Well, I think I've pretty much got a solid idea of how everything's working, so I don't necessarily need to keep playing this and keep rambling on. Yeah. So eventually I'll make video tutorials on scripting some of this stuff way in the future, but right now that's not on the to-do list. This is just something I do as a hobby, and if there's enough demand, then I'll do it. And the same with map creation and shit like that, you know. I'll consider going into detail on that, and, you know, maybe give some pointers on what you should do prior to designing a map, so you have a better idea of, like, you know, you got to have a starting point for that. So it doesn't matter. You have to at least have some kind of visual idea in your head of what you want to do before you even start, or you're just going to end up going down a rabbit hole of constant changes and never getting anywhere. I did that for a while in World at War. That's why I never really released a map. I mostly just made test maps and did scripting and made a lot of bullshit for World at War. Um, of course, I never released because there's a lot of hard work, and giving away my code just doesn't seem very ethical. I'm not I don't make money for this. I don't get any reward out of coding, like other than just the reward of doing it. And it's just like giving it away and let somebody else take my hard work and just use it for their own shit while they'll probably end up making money off it through YouTube or some other shit. Just it doesn't seem reasonable to me. That's not fair to me. Not when I put into years of reverse engineering fucking World at War and Black Ops and fucking Black Ops 3 and reading through all the scripting references and all that shit and reading through all the documentation and reverse engineering shit to figure shit out that wasn't documented. That's it's just not fair to me. I already don't make shit off my channel. I don't make shit off any of the work I do. I work a shitty job and hardly get anywhere in fucking life, so it's kind of why I have limited time to do this shit anyway. That's why you don't see me pumping out videos every week. I just don't got time for that shit. And when I do got time, I like to do shit like this, like do shit that's fun, that entertains me, like writing, you know, writing funny code for fucking games and shit. I've even done mod for fucking Cyberpunk, the malware mod, um, which I still want to extend in the future. I want to add more features to it and make it, uh, do a lot more than what it does. But right now, what it does is it makes you stuck to level one, so you can never progress from level one. Basically, it makes you. It's the idea was to be able to play the entire game as a level one character, but because of the way CDPR changed shit after 2.0, which I made the mod after 2.0, but during the 2.0 update, they shifted stuff. So, like, enemy scaling is a thing now. So, enemies scale to your level. So, in most circumstances throughout the main story, with a few exceptions, enemies scale to your level anyway. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. It is difficult on hard. It's difficult on the hardest setting and all that shit. It is difficult. It's not exactly easy, but I feel like because they shifted to an enemy scaling system where the enemies kind of scale to your level, it kind of takes away from what the difficulty could be, which was the idea of the mod. Which I have proven that you can beat the game, and I've done it multiple times as a level one character. It's just not easy, and it'll take you a very long time, especially if you do every ending. And I did do every ending, including the secret Johnny ending. Don't fear the Reaper. That was not fun. It took me a long time to do that. I actually did have some video up at one point of me trying to do it, and there was a bunch of fails, but I did eventually do it, and it was really hard, and it wasn't exactly the most fun thing in the world. But it is possible. But those endings, the Atom Smasher fights and all that, I don't believe those actually scale to your level because they were brutally difficult compared to like the rest of the enemy encounters and mission battles and shit you go through. They were actually a lot more difficult. So a lot of the boss battles seem like they're not generally scaled to your level. I think they're kind of more like they're kind of more fluid, with what CDPR envisioned, I guess, before the changes to the overall combat system outside of those battles. I think those are more heavily scripted, like they're controlled differently than the rest of like, world encounters and, you know, basic mission encounters and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, anyway, enough talking about that because that has nothing to do with what I'm doing here, but I am going to get back to that probably in the coming months. For what I understand, CDPR is supposed to be releasing another update probably around the time the Edge Runner 2 series comes out in September. So I kind of want to wait and see if they change any of the scripts, because if I do work and then they update the script that I've been working in, then I have to go through and I have to change everything that I've done to match with their new scripting. So, yeah, to update it to work with the new version. And so I'm just trying to hold out to make sure the scripts are going to pretty much stay the same before I do any more work to that. Um, but I will get back to it because I'm going to be touching multiple systems, not just the one that I touched in the original version of the mod, which right now, literally, I'm just touching the player development system. But I plan to span this out to touch other things like HUD and UI and shit like that. Eventually make my own menu. So yeah, it's gonna be, gonna be a lot of work, and I don't want systems to change that are gonna negatively impact my mod and make me have to basically go back and re-go through all them scripts and figure out what changed. So yeah, I'm kind of holding off until it's closer to finalize. Which it has been slowing down. Updates have slowed down a lot, but knowing that there's a potential update, whether it be big or small, I'm not sure how big this one's supposed to be, coming around the same time as Edge Runner 2. I kind of want to wait until I know for sure that they're not going to be updating the scripts really any further. Um, or making major changes to them, or even minor ones, because even minor ones affects it. So, but yeah, when it comes to this, I'll be doing updates on this. I'll be doing more video updates on this stuff. They're gonna be unedited like this, so if you don't want to watch the whole thing, you don't have to. But um, and eventually I will do tutorial videos. They will be edited, and go over how to go about doing shit like this if you want to for yourself in the future. I do eventually want to go into scripting tutorials for Black Ops 3 because it is pretty, it's got some similarities, but it's a lot different than World at War. There's been a lot of changes, updates to different things you can do in scripting. And I want to go over that stuff in detail because not very many videos go over that. They give you a baseline overview of scripting. Oh, you can use this function to do this. Write everything in one big script. Your map's GSC. They don't ever show you how to link scripts. They don't ever show you how to create your own scripts, and call functions from those scripts from your main script, and or call a function in this script from that script that is also the main functionality is called to the second script that calls the second script and the third script from the first script, et cetera, et cetera. None of that stuff is ever explained in any of the tutorials I've ever seen. Uh, they don't really show a deeper understanding, and I guess I get that because for beginners that might help them a little bit, but I feel like if you want to ever go from beginner to intermediate or advanced in scripting, you actually have to learn some of the harder concepts and not just write everything in one big script. Plus, that really hurts organization. You end up having thousands of lines of code in one script that you got to sift through, figure out where your bug is, figure out where this code is. You know, Even if you're commenting, sections to, you know, denote where stuff is, it's still messy. You want to organize things better. So, the idea is to show organization, system development, how the inner workings of the scripts work, how to link them, kind of give an overview of how linker works and how it links the scripts and you know, uh makes them work together and all that stuff. That stuff, that's a little less important, but it's still kind of important to know the basics of that. But when it comes to scripting, there's deeper scripting stuff that could be done that just I don't see in any tutorials, and I plan to fill that gap. It seems like a lot of people just do a basic shit out a quick video on how to code some basic shit like a moving object or something, which is fine. Don't get me wrong, that's cool, and that's something you probably will use in your scripting journey. But that's very basic, and you know, like it shows you one thing. It doesn't show you why it works. It doesn't show you how it works. It just shows you write this line of code and this is what the result will be. It doesn't really explain to you much on how it works, which won't ever make you a better system developer or designer, I should say. It won't ever make you better at doing what you do. If you want to get better, that takes practice, you know, a lot of understanding and a lot of reverse engineering, um, and maybe some help. You know, I didn't have any help. I taught myself because honestly, I found a lot of the help to just not be fucking helpful at all. You know, I'm self taught in programming. Never went to school, never went to college, never fucking set foot in school. Self taught. So, you know, if I could do it, you could do it. And I mean, come on, you're talking to somebody who was a fucking idiot when they was a kid. So, you know, if I could go from being a fucking idiot to a pretty good programmer, then anybody could do it if they really wanted. And no, we're not using Chat GPT or Claude or fucking any of that goddamn make me want to kill myself shit. You know, no. Actual skill. That stuff won't give you skill. That teaches you copy paste. The same thing a lot of them YouTubers do. That doesn't actually teach you a deeper inner working knowledge of how the scripting works and how the systems link together and all that. That doesn't teach you none of that, you know. And honestly, I have probed Chat GPT and shit just to see what it does. You know, basically systems I've already worked on. I've probed it and been like, hey, well, how would you go about doing this? 90% of the time, it's wrong. There's about 10% time where it's actually correct or somewhat correct or maybe, you know, halfway right. But most of the time it's not going to be correct. And you're going to have to, even if you did copy paste code that it gave you, you're going to have to rewrite major portions of it for it to work for you anyway. So you're better off to just learn how to write the shit yourself and design the systems that you want to design yourself. You know, you do a lot better doing it that way, and you actually using your brain instead of offloading it to fucking, you know, chat fucking grab personal information or whatever you want to call it. Grab personal telemetry, you know, whatever. You know, that fucking thing. Or Claude or any of that shit, you know. Any of them chatbots. Like, yeah, they can write code, but when it comes to GSC, it's definitely not exactly great at that. Even though there is documentation out there, apparently, apparently that was never fed into ChatGPT. You know, um, so I have tested it. I don't like it, and I don't use it because it's just not useful for one, and for two, even if it was, I feel like my whole thing is I like doing the work. I like figuring out how to make shit work. I like problem solving. And that's not problem solving, that's offloading the problem. So if you're offloading the problem, then programming's not for you. You probably just shouldn't be doing it, you know, honestly. If you're not interested or invested in learning and actually problem solving the issues and figuring out how to make shit work that you want to work, it's not worth your time. Don't do it. You know, that's my advice to you on that. You know, if you don't enjoy it, don't do it. You know, I personally enjoy it, so I do it. Um, but anyway, I've kind of waffled on long enough, so yeah, check this out if you want. Don't if you don't. You know, it's cool. But yeah, see you later.